it's Jessica from Southern Sparrow, and today we're going to talk about one way that you can play when you don't have the full foursome that you need for regular 4-player Mahjong. Today we're going to talk about 2-player Mahjong, which is also called Siamese Mahjong. So in 2-player Mahjong, you will each play 2 hands at a time. So I have 2 racks set up in front of each player. They're the same racks that we play with in 4-player Mahjong, but we've just set them up back to back. And in Siamese Mahjong, you don't build walls and you don't do a Charleston. And that's one of the reasons that these games go really quickly. And it's another reason that it is really an easy way to teach someone who has been hesitant to learn this game, especially husbands. So I will tell you, I have taught lots and lots of men now how to play Mahjong. Lots of my friends' husbands have learned how to play. And I will say that when we get to the point in the lesson that we've kind of taught everyone how to play how to do the Charleston, and we're ready to get into gameplay, there is some weird shift. Husbands have a hang up of, what do you mean we've spent all this time doing this Charleston and the game hasn't even started yet? So if you have a husband like that who is Charleston resistant, teaching them Siamese is a great way to get them involved in the strategic hand building aspects of the game in a way that feels more approachable and is a bit more date nighty. And that is a great way to bring them to the game. And then when you're ready to maybe have a couple couples over and play Mahjong together, then you can introduce the concept of the Charleston. So I find that to be a really, really approachable way to bring people into this game who are a bit resistant to learning overall. So you will set up with 2 racks in front of each player. Again, we're not going to build walls, so we're just going to dump all of our tiles in the middle of the table. You're going to turn them all face down. We're going to mix them up, and then each player will self-draw their tiles from the middle of the table. I can draw from tiles over here. It doesn't really matter, but one player will draw 27 tiles, and the other player will draw 28 tiles. That player is essentially the east seat, though it's not called that in Siamese. And they will start the game with that first discard. So that's why there's one player that has 27 and one player that has 28. It's just like in a 4-person game where 3 players have 13 tiles and the 4th player has 14 tiles. That's the person who starts the game with that first discard. The reason that you have 27 and 28 and not 26 and 27 is that you need to be 1 tile away from being able to declare Mahjong on both hands, which means one hand must always be at 14 tiles and the other hand must be at 13 when it's not your turn and at 14 when it is your turn or when you Mahjong. So to win in Siamese Mahjong, to win in 2-player Mahjong, you will mahj both racks, both of your hands. You're playing 2 hands at a time. So I often find that when I draw my tiles in a game of Siamese, I will have one rack that feels very solid of, oh, I know what section I'm going for. I probably even know what line I'm going for on the card. That one feels really solid. I've got maybe 9 or 10 tiles towards Mahjong on that one hand. And then the second rack is where I'm a little bit more like, okay, let's zero in on a section. Let's zero in on a couple of hands that work. That's how I find it to be. The thing I love about Siamese, and one of the reasons that I think it's a great way to learn this game, is you have the flexibility between your 2 racks that as you're building these hands, if you need to pivot, you can switch your tiles between 2 racks. Or let's say that maybe I had some jokers up here. Maybe I have 2 jokers here that I've allocated towards something in this hand, and then I draw those tiles over the course of the game. I can move those jokers down here and use them towards this hand. So I love that flexibility of being able to move tiles back and forth on your racks. Again, you will win Siamese Mahjong when you've mahjed both racks. And the question that I get a lot on videos about Siamese Mahjong is, well, what happens if I win one line? What happens if I'm ready to mahj one line? Well, you don't have to disclose that to your opponent. You can mahj one line and just leave that on your rack down or leave whatever exposures you have out. There are really kind of 2 reasons that I think it makes sense to mahj a single line even though you haven't yet won Siamese. And those 2 reasons are if you have some jokers in your exposures and you mahj that line, you're locking those jokers in. The person you're playing against can no longer swap for those jokers if that line has been called for mahj. Meaning, you've gone up on your rack, you have that, you're saying, I'm mahjing this line, and you have 5 jokers exposed. That player cannot take any of those jokers as part of a joker swap. They're locked. The second reason that you may want to mahj one line when you're not quite ready with the second line would be if, for some reason, you need to call for that last tile to mahj. So we know that you can call for mahjong if you need a single, maybe you're building a pair, a group of singles like News or 2025. Maybe you're playing a concealed hand, a hand that's marked on your card with the letter C next to the point value. Those are concealed hands, meaning you cannot call throughout the game, but you can call for that final tile needed for mahjong. That would be a reason that you would mahj a single line. Someone discards or your opponent discards the tile that is your last one that you need for that line, call it for mahjong, lock that line in, and then work to build your second line. But you win when both lines have been mahjed. So that is how we play 2-player Siamese Mahjong. Drop any questions that you have down below in the comments, and happy mahjing, y'all!